Betty for coming. Thank you, Virginia. Okay, we are live streaming tonight as well, and so if you would ever like to go back and review it or find out, get all the notifications about the Harvey County Republican Party, go to Facebook to Harvey County KS GOP and like it, and you'll start getting all of our information. Let's get this meeting started off, right? Let's stand. I'll lead us in prayer, and then we'll do the flag salute. Thank you, Lord, for being here with us, and I just pray that your presence will be here to create a calm atmosphere, a friendly atmosphere. I pray that you will help us to have calm minds so that we listen well and listen to the intent of what each candidate wants to get across. I pray also that you will just be with each candidate, and I'm so thankful that they want to dedicate their time, their talent, and their passion for helping the people of Kansas. Be with us tonight, and may you just bless every seat that's here. Ready us to continue making every moment count, not just here tonight, but as we go out into the world and leave this place. And I pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. Okay, we'll do our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That was Flint Jaden and Copper Jaden, my grandchildren, and her grandchildren. I'm going to introduce several groups of people right now, and if they will just, after I say their name, give the audience a high-flying wave. Let's start with our forum. This is Avery Anderson, Lance Gormley, Dwight McAdow, and Kathy Valentine. At the end of the forum, each one of the candidates has kind of camped out at one of the round tables. They each have a wall. And so you can just circulate around the room and talk to each one of them and do a meet and greet with them and get to know them personally. Also in attendance, we have Steve Owens, who's our state representative for the district. Renee Erickson was supposed to come. I haven't seen her walk in, but if she does, I'll introduce her. She was for the 73rd district. And they will remain kind of in the center to talk to you afterwards. We also have in attendance 3 candidates running in the primary for county commission and for District 3. And right now they're all 3 at the back. Dawn Schrader, Michael Weber, and Roger Lowry. Is Chip Westfall here? He was going to come as well. No. Is there anybody else that we need to introduce? Well, single people would like to be introduced, but let's start with just anybody holding a political office that was
Our sheriff is here.
Sheriff Chad Gay, where are you at? Stand up. Oh, Clint McBroom, please stand. And yes. Ronnie Cry and Clint McBroom. Thank you for coming. We appreciate, and isn't that wonderful that our people that have political offices are coming to meet with us? So what does a state representative do? Well, I kind of thought about it, and I was trying to come up with some bullets, and I kind of thought, well, that's kind of like asking a mother of young children, so what do you do all day? Or, like the question I like right now is, so now that you're retired, do you get bored? And so I think as I talk about these 3 points, I'm sure Steve will be sitting here just smiling, saying, they have no idea. The first thing I'm going to say is that representatives are elected by the state district for a 2-year term. They're charged with presenting the best interest of their districts in terms of introducing or supporting laws and amendments, and they serve as political spokespeople for issues that are important to their state and their district, and are accountable to those they represent. I want you to get to know each of the candidates. They're going to get 1 minute to introduce themselves and say whatever they would like. And Ed Myers is our timekeeper here, and he's going to give them 1 minute and a 15-second warning to kind of wrap up their thought, and then he'll wave the stop sign. You have index cards at your seat, and that's for you to write a question down either now or after we get started, and it makes you think of a question, write it down, and we'll be collecting those. I'll start with some that have already been turned in here in a minute. We're gonna wrap it up within the hour, and then that will leave plenty of time for you guys to go around to the forum people, the city commission candidates, and talk to some of our other office holders here to talk, because that's what's most important. Before our candidates are introduced, Steve Owens wanted to come up and say a word.
Thank you. Thank you all very much for being here. I apologize, the air conditioner in this building isn't quite made for 103-degree days, so try to relax a little bit, enjoy what cool exists. Thank you guys for being here. You know, if one thing has become very clear over the last 4 or 6 months, it's that elections have consequences, right? The decisions that we make at the election box each August and each November have consequences. Sometimes they're not as far-reaching as they are other times. And we can see how far-reaching they have been. Not a single legislator, the governor, or anybody else signed up with the expectation that we would be going through a pandemic at this time. But what we have seen challenges each of us individually and challenges us, our rights, our freedoms, and our individual liberties. So I would encourage you guys to give heed to these 4 candidates, to listen and to learn about who is going to uphold those freedoms and those liberties best and represent this seat. You see, 1 seat makes all the difference. There are currently 84 so-called Republicans in the House. Yet, we don't have 84 people that are willing to stand up and challenge a governor's decision. 1 vote makes a huge difference. And I would encourage you guys to think about that as you listen to these candidates. And thank you all for being here. For those that are in my district, thank you all for your support. And it's truly an honor to serve and to be a representative at this time. So thank you very much.
Before they talk, one thing also I want to piggyback on is when Governor Kelly turns things over to Harvey County, it's the county commission that makes the decisions for us. And so those 3 gentlemen back there, as well as Steve, you want to make sure you're talking to. Let's start with Avery Anderson, and you'll get 1 minute.
Hello, my name is Avery Anderson. I was born and raised here in Newton, Kansas. After graduation, I went to the University of Kansas, and after graduating from KU, I went to Washington, D.C. and worked for Senator Pat Roberts. And then after that, I came home and started working for my dad and my grandpa here around town. And I saw that Steve Kelly was not going to run this year, and I knew I always wanted to get involved into politics, and I felt like now was the time to do it.
Well, my name's Lance. Most of you remember me from losing the commission race. In all honesty, I look at it as great success. There were some things that I did during that time. I could name a few. I'm one of the people that advocated against the $0 increase. I'm not going to take credit for it, but I was advocating for it. I'm one of the people that advocated against the school bond issue as a grassroots movement, Vote No campaign. While I was running for the Newton City Commission, I was able to get a petition in protest of the city ordinance for the Sunday alcohol sales, and then obviously didn't gain election, but that's okay. After election, I turned around and I decided I just wanted to continue to do something, so I helped get the Harvey County Young Republicans started. It's started, and we're moving on, but COVID has quite the impact on us. As far as getting involved in this situation, it was apparent that I felt like we were a little bit late in the game. I had some momentum with my last race and felt like I had a very good chance at an opportunity at beating Tim Hodge if I were to file. That's about what I got.
Yeah, hi, my name is Dwight McAdow. I've gone around and talked to a few of you people I recognize here in the audience this evening, and the first question I always get is, who are you? So hopefully we'll get through a little bit of this tonight, maybe get to know me a little bit. I'd love to come around and get to know some of you. So at the end of the night, if nothing else, please come by and see us at our spots and get some information from us so we can continue the conversation. I'll try to run down a quick bio. I am Newton born and raised. Like Avery, I have a family that goes back to the early 1900s. I graduated from Newton here in 91. I went in the military and did 6 years in the Army. I graduated from WSU with my MBA. I worked at a place where we expanded our business from 3 people to 25 people. I have 2 businesses here in town at Cedar Village. I'm running out of time really quick, so we'll continue the conversation later.
Well, thank you for being here. I appreciate you taking the time to come out. I'm Kathy Valentine. I'm currently on the Newton City Commission. I have served on that commission since 2015. I consider myself to be a fiscal conservative. I am pro-life, pro-Second Amendment. I support the value of them both amendment. And if you don't mind, indulge me with my notes because I'm a researcher and a note taker, and I want to stay on track. Right now, my big concern, and I've been eager to move forward with this decision, is I believe that we have a desperate need right now to restore integrity and respect to the role of the District 72 seat. I believe that that representative needs to be able to work with colleagues across the aisle, not bullying, demanding, rude, but with respect. I want to take those kind of changes to the 72nd District seat. I'm eager to roll up my sleeves and get to work for you. Before we get started, I'm going to tell the candidates that the experience we've had with our other forums has been that it's really easy when they answer to just answer our questions generally. And when we just hear all general answers, we're less likely probably to get out and vote because we're okay with whoever wins. So as the audience, we would like for you to try and answer our questions as specifically as you can. And not in general terms. And if you can, knowing you don't have experience there may be a little hard, but you could at least give us examples or what's driving your thinking, or maybe some solutions to some of the problems. Okay, I'm going to start now with the questions that have been turned in so far, and we will gather more later. I'll alternate who I start with, and they each get 1 minute to keep it from appearing kind of clumsy and clustered. They do not need to stand. Well, they each have a microphone, so you guys can just stay seated if you would like. What core principles will guide your decision making in Topeka? What core principles will guide your decision making in Topeka?
So, I've grown up in a very tight-knit family. Everything we've ever done is always together, and so I think going to Topeka, I would try to take my family values and which I also think are Kansas values to Topeka and try to implement those as much as I could in Topeka as I have here in town.
Well, for me, I think my first is faith. I believe that everything that I do and everything that I continue to do should be based off that. I'm not perfect by any means. I'm the first to admit that. But my core principles lead me to my faith every time. Secondly, it would be how is this going to affect my community? And not just certain pockets of my community, but my community as a whole. Because I think one problem that we have in politics is the ability to pick winners and losers, and I think that's become an establishment thing. I believe that we need to consider the whole. Our current representative does a very good job of making sure that he considers the few, and I believe that there needs to be someone who will look at every situation from a lower socioeconomic condition up into how we're able to profit business, how people are able to get their medical, how our schools are operating, whether we have a good quality of life for people in our community in the 72nd and here in Kansas.
Well, when you talk about decision making, I'm a very data-driven person. I have an engineering background, so I like to think in those terms. So I like to see the data. I'm a spreadsheet guy, so I like to take that data and put it into spreadsheets and create different outcomes depending on what the problems are. And that's something that I've done a lot of in my career, has been a problem solver. So I guess the question goes back to principles, and I was raised here with a family that we spent a lot of time in the outdoors, we spent a lot of time together, and so getting out there and being able to start talking to you guys and learning what you want to do and using that togetherness and some cohesion between everybody, and then combining that with data to try to get us in the best situation, I think is how I would approach things.
Well, first of all, I am a Christian, and I believe it's very important to apply principles to my decisions. Having said that, I go back to what I said before. I'm pro-life, and I'm a support of the values of both amendment. As I say that, I think about something else that I studied this last couple of weeks. The Republican Party platform. I am very humbled by what I've read in there, and I want to encourage Republicans to stay close to that, Republicans in the legislature, because it recognizes that we are grateful to an almighty God for our civil and religious privileges. And it also emphasizes that man is created in the image of God, and each person's dignity and freedom and ability and responsibility must be honored. This is the Republican Party platform, and I am very thankful and proud to be able to have that. This question is from our Facebook audience, and I have several other cards addressing the same issue. What are your views regarding Governor Kelly's upcoming mask mandate? What are your views regarding Governor Kelly's upcoming mask mandate? We'll start with Lance.
I got to stand up for this one. Okay. Hey, it's true. There's a pandemic. Nobody's going to deny that. I'm sorry, but we have the flu. We have all kinds of things that can kill you all day long, every day, wandering around. It's true. You could die in a car accident. I'm not trying to make light of it. I'm really not, okay? We are in the middle of a pandemic. I'm a person that believes in personal responsibility. If you're somebody that is in a condition in which you feel like you're immunocompromised, please stay home. That helps the economy. Okay? Not shutting the economy down. I think it's ridiculous that somebody, again, twice over, let's talk about Governor Kelly, would mandate an order that is constitutionally incorrect. And then, because we couldn't get enough in our House to get a bill passed to be able to restrict her that she couldn't veto, then we're in a situation where we have to put up with it again. And this is not going to change until next legislative season. That's just going to be the way that it is. So in my opinion, I think it's wrong. I don't think that we should go around mandating people. I would have handled the entire situation differently. I think that it's being more politicized than anything else.
I'm going to answer that question and take just a little bit of a step back from it, because it's really the view that I have on most things, in that I don't like the government telling me what to do, when to do it, or how to do it. And I do know that there are times when we do need that guidance, and when that time comes, I like it to be at the lowest level possible, the level closest to the community. Because what happens in Topeka, what happens in New York, what happens anywhere else in the state isn't necessarily what happens here in Harvey County. And so I don't like the fact that she's trying to mandate things from 10,000 feet because maybe she sees something over in the other part of the state. And what I would much prefer is that we as a local community make those decisions ourselves and then abide by them. And even at that, once those decisions are made, would still prefer it to be a personal decision, and then let everybody else decide from there. So.
Well, I understand why she did it. I know there's a number of senior citizens that are very concerned, and anybody with underlying health issues has a great concern also. But I'm concerned about the line that it crosses and the infringement that it begins to take on our liberties and our freedoms. There's already that kind of stuff going on all over the country, and if it continues, we're going to see a different America. There's already a city in this country that's asking for memberships of churches. And that may sound like, since it's not close to here, it won't be long before something like that occurs. I think we need to be very guarded. And I'm glad our House reps and those who have gotten on this and jumped on it to see what we can do about this before it goes any further.
I was shocked to see any state mandate give government mandated clothing, but especially our state here in Kansas. I am not against masks in any way, but I completely agree with them voluntarily, but it is a 100% violation to our Constitution to force us to wear them.
Many legislatures have agreed not to vote on Medicaid expansion until Value Them Both has passed, which allows elected representatives and not the unelected courts to decide abortion policy in Kansas. Will you join them in passing the Value Them Both constitutional amendment?
Well, there was kind of a lot there in that question. So my opinion on that one is that it's really, I don't know that it's the legislature's decision to make that choice. I would support us getting it out there on the local ballots and letting the people decide. Because I just don't think it's fair that we have that small group of people make a decision that impacts everybody, especially in the breadth of what it really covers. So I would much rather support it, to get it on the ballot, to get it out to the people so they can choose.
Well, I absolutely would not support taxpayer-funded abortion, Medicaid expansion. I'm pro-life. Life begins at conception. And what the Value Them Both amendment will do is two things. It will create protection in the Bill of Rights, and that no constitutional right to abortion. And the second thing it does is it gives that ability back to citizens to be able to regulate abortion through their elected officials, their elected legislators. I support that.
I am a strong pro-life candidate, and I believe that the Value Them Both amendment should be put on the ballot for the people of Kansas to decide.
Is it okay if I stand? Is it okay? I feel like I should stand if I'm talking to people. That's just my personal opinion. Well, two things. One, yes, I believe that it was a huge mistake to not allow the citizens of the state of Kansas to vote on it. I think that's ridiculous. Tim Hodge, he was against it, of course, but he's a pro-lifer, I'm sure. And the end result is that he's taking away people's right to vote that would vote for him into office. So I don't understand where this comes from. Secondly, I believe that life begins at conception. I think that we've had a very difficult time, and we've all seen that legislatively. So I'm okay with saying that I believe that we could, and we have in the past, tried to pass a heartbeat amendment. So just to know who I am, yeah, if I was elected, absolutely, the citizens of Kansas would have the right to vote on the value of the vote. I am in favor of it. If I were to vote, I would vote in favor of it. I would take it a step further as a legislator, and I would say that I think that I would be involved with a bill that has been in the past introduced. It's a heartbeat amendment, and I believe that we could legislatively get that accomplished. And I think it would be very difficult for the federal government to come down on us and change what we're wanting to do in our Constitution of the state of Kansas.
Do you support legalizing marijuana similar to what Colorado has done? No. I do not support recreational marijuana, and I'm really struggling with medicinal marijuana. I've been doing my research on that, and I'm still looking at it. The FDA has not approved marijuana as a medicine. So, tell you is, at this point in time, no.
I am against recreational marijuana. I'm not saying I could never be for medical marijuana, but up until this point, I haven't seen any evidence that shows that we should go forward with it. Last I saw, according to the HHS, FDA, Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, and the National Institute for Drug Abuse, they all have concluded that no scientific studies have supported marijuana use for the general medical purposes. Another downside to legalization is a greater number of motor vehicle accidents. So unless further research comes out in support, I am not for the legislation.
I think that we need to address medicinal marijuana. Okay? Every state around us is doing it. What we're going to do is we're going to wind up having somebody that has a medicinal marijuana card in Colorado need to go see somebody in Kansas City, and they're going to go all the way around the state of Kansas. And not only that, but to say that marijuana should be treated any differently from a doctor prescribing it than Valium or Loratabs or hydrocodone, like the science is not in on that. We don't know how addictive those prescription medications are. We haven't figured out that mental illness is involved in all that. Suicide rates increase. You know, we need to start giving people something other than what they've been given right now, a less addictive pain medication, and marijuana should be on the table. There's no reason we, as a legislature, should stand between what a doctor is able to prescribe their patient. Thank you. Sorry. I'll say this. I'm not for recreational marijuana. I think that's a huge problem, more or less because of the federal level and the way that they've handled it versus how Colorado has handled it or something. There's lots of money problems there, taxes and everything else. So until the federal government does something, we can't.
So, yeah, I would support medical marijuana. I think that there's plenty of other places that are already doing it, and I think that if there's an opportunity to supply something other than opioids, maybe if that's a solution for it, then I think that would be okay. As far as recreational marijuana goes, I don't think it's really an issue at the moment. I mean, it's still being held up at the federal level. And so if it gets to the point where the federal level decides to do something about it, then I would liken it to the alcohol sales. As long as it ends up being regulated in a manner that the community feels safe with, then that would be okay for it.
Under Medicaid expansion, able-bodied recipients ages 19 to 64 with no dependents will have no work requirements. Abortion will be included in the coverage, therefore being taxpayer funded. Hospitals and states that have passed it are still closing. Where do you stand on this issue?
So Kansas is one of 14 states right now that have not expanded Medicaid. Last session, Medicaid expansion had bipartisan support in the Kansas legislature. Personally, I think expanding Medicaid has the potential to help thousands of Kansans gain access to health care. This would also help rural hospitals and nursing homes across the state from closing. The federal government provides 90% of the total cost of a Medicaid expansion. That is our money. We need to bring it back to the state of Kansas. I would support expansion efforts if they are right for many challenges Kansas is facing right now.
I'm not for Medicaid expansion. I think just on the premise that I'd like to see the federal government stay out of our business if possible. I believe that I did a Don Whitmer interview. We talked about it, and I said it's like the worm on the hook. Yes, that is correct. 90% of that's covered. But then what happens when the federal government gets into a bind? Then all of a sudden we're up for it, and we get into like what our educational situation is, where there's no end. We're just going to have to keep going and going and going. I believe that right here in Newton, we have a really, really awesome program right now. It's Health Ministries Clinic. It is an alternative to people that need or would qualify in a similar situation, and they get to go and they get help. And it's not that expensive, okay? I'm not for going, it's this tax idea. I keep hearing this tax idea. I just don't understand it. It's like it's not our money. It's like it's the federal government somehow when they take our tax dollars that if the federal government gives the state back some of those tax dollars, it wasn't our tax dollars. It all comes from the same pot. It might come through Kansas or, I'm going to stop. Okay. Anybody knows me, I don't stop.
Simple answer on that is no. I do not support Medicaid expansion. In the research that I was doing on this, it seems to me that the people that it's meant to help already have programs out there that'll help those people. It's just a matter of them going and finding them and then using them. The opportunity on the other side of the coin, if we do expand it, is that this state is potentially on the hook for what could be millions of dollars of additional revenue that would be required, and we all know where that comes from. So I would be against it, and yeah, there's a lot of supporting evidence and a lot of dangers if we move that direction.
I definitely support. Now, is there something wrong with me? You got new batteries in this? Okay. I definitely support the referral to workforce training. I think that's important. In my research on this, I discovered that many of those 130,000 some that are kind of falling through the cracks have jobs but can't afford their insurance through their employer and are currently enrolled in the federal exchange, and they receive subsidies for their premiums. If Kansas expands, then those people can get off that federal exchange with their subsidies, not have to receive any subsidies, continue to work, and get on Medicaid. According to the Foundation for Government Accountability, many of the states that expanded have ended up with skyrocketing enrollments and massive cost overruns. I'm really just not for solving that issue by robbing Peter to pay Paul. Would you support sports betting in our Kansas casinos? Would you include college sports?
Right. Am I first one? No, I'm not. I wouldn't be for that. I apologize if that's how people feel. They want to go gamble. That's cool. I'm not a gambler. I don't think that it's good. I think there's a lot of addiction that runs with that one. There's plenty of ways to gamble. If you want to do that currently, that's my belief on it.
Yes, I like to gamble. I go and visit the casinos from time to time. Again, I think it goes back to more my libertarian side of let people do what they want to do. If the casinos want to provide that as a form of entertainment and people want to go and partake in it, I'm okay with that. It really doesn't bother me one way or the other. So from my point of view, it's let people do what they want to do, and I don't see that there's an issue with it.
Okay, don't start my time yet. I didn't hear the entire question. Can somebody? Oh, my answer to that is no. What that does to families, men that have families, women, it's a habit. It can be a habit like smoking or drinking. Simple? No.
I definitely would support it. It happens regardless. If we don't have it in the casinos, a couple buddies on the golf course are going to bet on the game tonight. So the state could tax it, and we would. I think I would absolutely be for it.
If you want to pass more cards to the middle, our card collectors will start collecting some more. With a predicted $1.5 billion loss in state revenue in 2021, where would you be willing to make cuts in the state budget?
Yeah, so at the end of the day on this one, this is definitely something we're going to run into. And what it really comes down to is there's two different ways you can look at tax cuts. You can look at it as an across-the-board hand-holding deal where everybody goes in and takes a hit, or you can force rank things and decide what's more important. And so my thought on the matter is you've got to look at it from both sides of that. You need to be able to figure out where to take those cuts. You have to go to the department heads. You have to give them the opportunity to tell you where they can make cuts. And then after that, you force rank them and you make the cuts as what you see is less of a necessity. So my thought is, overall, I would prepare an opportunity to cut a flat percentage across everybody. I would go to the department heads. I would let them tell me where they think they can make cuts. Once I get those responses, then I would force rank from the bottom up and get rid of and start cutting at the places that are less of a necessity.
Well, a freshman legislator needs to understand that when they get there, they hope, if they like to deal with money, they can get assigned to a committee on appropriations or subcommittees, because in my research, how a budget is handled, I have been in agreement with a flat across-the-board cut. However, I've learned that the governor delivers her budget to the legislature, and then that goes to the appropriations subcommittees who work that budget, who dig into the issues, hearings, testimonies, pros and cons, and then it goes to the appropriations committee. So anybody that's on any of those budgeting committees has an opportunity to have an influence and impact in what that budget's going to look like. That's very interesting to me. I work with budgets through the city commission. We can do flat across-the-board cuts in the city at the city level. It's a little bit differently done at the state level. I was a little disappointed to find that. I thought it might be something simpler like the city, but it's not. I will say that cuts is where I'm at. I'm not for increasing taxes. I'm not making promises. I'm just not for it.
I think Governor Kelly's cuts this year were a one-year fix. The governor didn't actually make many cuts, instead just delayed payments into the future. We need to make real cuts that will make a real difference to the state. I am against a flat across-the-board cut. I think we need to look at the budget closely and find places that we could make realistic cuts.
I'm going to say I don't disagree with what we talked about so far. We're going to have to do something different with the budget. I mean, that's just all it is. I have been reading quite a bit, talking to several different representatives throughout this whole thing, and one option that is on the table is to take the $1.3 billion that we just increased for our education and don't do that. Okay? I don't want to be pegged as an anti-education person, but I do think this pandemic has created some real problems. We're about $1.5 billion in the hole right now as it stands. we're going to give the school system an increase in $1.3 billion. Maybe we ought to hold off on that for a couple of years. I mean, I was educated. Everybody that was educated up to 2016. I mean, do we really have to make that change right now, especially at this time, or would it be better to cut that out, affect one department that had already been running that way for a while, or we're going to have to cut all the way across the board, or we're going to have to take a razor to it. We've got to do something.
I'm going to combine these two. 3 of you have been in the public spotlight before. Lance ran for city commission. Kathy, you're a current commissioner. And Avery, you were an intern. How will you counter attacks from Tim Hodge based on past comments, voting, or conduct? And the second one, all candidates, one sentence. How will you defeat Mr. Hodge? I think I got that all under one. Defeating Mr. Hodge. I've already had one moment with, Tim has had a lot of passion. He started out that way. But I think what happens in that seat, or at least what I understand that has happened in that seat, is a serious character issue. Integrity and respect is at a loss. And I have had the opportunity to speak to many. You simply can't, as a representative, conduct yourself with a demanding, angry, bullish tone. And that is the way I will have to address him if I am the one who meets him in the general. Just simply be honest. That's his record, as well as his voting record, which that I don't know right now. I'm working on trying to get that.
Too many members of this district have told me on their doorsteps or meeting them around that they have contacted Tim Hodge through mail, letter, phone call. Regardless, he is very, very bad at getting back with you, especially if you have an R next to your name. He will not return your call. I think that's something that actually is one of the things that drove me to enter the race. Is I don't think any state representative of a constituency of 19,000 should have that difficulty of getting back to your constituents. So communication was a big issue, and I would definitely change that.
Was that a two-part question? You asked about something in the spotlight, and then you said, how would I Tim Hodge? Okay, I'm probably the only person up here that turns Tim Hodge's mantra on its head. Okay? He comes to my neighborhood and he knocks on the door and he lies to people and tries to tell them that he's going to do something for them. And then I go to my neighbor's house and I actually try to help him. And then they're telling me these promises that this guy's telling them. Almost got wrapped up into some stuff when it came to the water bill. Yeah, I want to see, is there something we can do with the water bill? I'm not out here promising people that it's all going to disappear. That's what we were trying to do with Hodge. I've talked to Hodge quite a bit, actually. An open dialogue with him. I don't think that he's a horrible person. I think that he's got a mad, mad game when it comes to a ground game, when it comes to knocking on doors, when it comes to relating to people. And up to this point, we have failed at that. And that's what I'm good at. Okay? I have no problem going up and knocking on a Democrat's door and asking for their vote when it comes time for the election. I have no problem going up and talking to an unaffiliated voter and trying to get them to vote. We cannot hold the line as Republicans and just wish that we have enough people. We have to go across that aisle. We have to be attractive to people. And my life is an attraction there. It truly is, on how to be successful. I will fight like heck to beat Tim Hodge. I will knock on more doors. I will fight harder. There will be nobody that will fight harder.
That's a super hard question to answer in 1 minute. And so really at the end of the day, there are 4 of us up here running. And I think what that really shows is that there are people in this community that are tired of Tim and that we need to do something to change it. And so at the end of the day, though, none of us are going to beat Tim. None of us are going to do it. You guys are going to do it. So the best thing we can do right here and right now is try to get out as much information to you guys about us as we can. But you guys are the ones that have to make the difference. There are 6,500 registered Republicans in this district. There are 4,000 registered Democrats, and there are 4,500 registered unaffiliateds. The math says this should be easy for any of us. But we can't do it if you guys don't vote. If you guys don't have the conversation with your friends, if you guys don't stir the community up, we're only one person at a time up here. So we need all of your help to light the fire, to get the vote out there to do it. I know that really doesn't answer the question that maybe was asked, but I'm the only one that doesn't have political experience, so there's really nothing he can bag on me about.
In your mind, how crucial is the Kansas Supreme Court selection process and being changed, and why?
Yeah, so this is something that I had to look into because I really paid attention at the federal level, but I didn't realize at the state level how messed up this really was. So some of the things I've researched show how liberal our Supreme Court is, and the process that's used to vote those people in or assign those people to that role almost is very, very concerning if you go and study it. And so to me, I think we need to take a different approach on how we get those people into those positions, and it needs to be done more something similar to what the federal government does, where it's elected or selected by the people and goes through a process instead of letting the attorneys make those decisions for us.
Yeah, I've looked at that process as well, and if you have a Republican governor, and you might be able to trust that you'll have some good choices, but if you have a Democratic governor, you just have to go with those choices. And I think that these people need to run for office, just like the rest of us have to.
I think that this is a large issue. I actually studied it when I was in school. I don't know why our Senate doesn't have to approve the judicial nominee. I think that's a huge issue. So I understand the governor gets their say, but I think the legislature should have to confirm. That's my opinion.
I can just echo what Avery said. I believe that it should be exactly that way.
Our welfare system is broken. How will you work to reduce the amount of people collecting welfare? It kind of goes back, first of all, to the work referral program, getting people off of that and requiring that they work. If they're able-bodied workers, they need to be working at a job. I haven't looked at that. I have to be honest, and I haven't looked at that to a great depth. I focused more on that work referral in the Medicaid expansion program, but I definitely support work referral and I guess training. But again, you start looking at, if you make all these suggestions, then you are looking at who and how they'll be paid for. And so that's not something that you just say, well, we'll help get them off of welfare, but you got to figure out how that's going to happen and who's going to pay for it.
Yeah, I would say that I also need to research this a little deeper, but making sure that able-bodied workers are finding a job and finding a place to work would definitely be step one.
Well, people on welfare ain't gotten good. Okay, it's a very, very little amount, and to point the finger at people on welfare and say you're the reason for our problem, I don't really go with that. What I would like to see is it be easier to work at a job than it is to get welfare. Okay, if somebody really needs it, then we need to up exactly what we're requiring for it. I'm not against taking UAs if you're asking for cash assistance. Make sure our money's going the right place. I'm not against UAs if you're getting food stamps. If you want something from the federal government or the state government, then we want to require something from you. It's not that difficult. There are people that fall through the cracks. There are people that abuse the system, but to say that we need to go and we need to just deem them all in one category as bad, and though they're leeching off the system, is kind of a joke. And I would take that a little personal. So where I'm at is I believe that we need to require more. I don't think that there's anything wrong with a UA when you're getting food stamps or welfare. And I think we need to do something similar to a ticket to work program that the disability has, where if you make a little bit of money, it's a tier program that goes up.
Yeah, that's a tough question to answer because it's kind of open-ended. What does welfare broken really mean? But I would agree with Lance that in order to make it work better, I think we need to put requirements to it. And I think sometimes when you make it too easy for somebody to do something, then they get a little lethargic with it and don't appreciate what they're actually getting, because that's money out of my pocket, it's money out of your pocket that they're receiving. And to get that money, they should have to do something in return, whether it's looking for work, whether it's providing community service, whether it's doing something. There should be some requirement for them to receive that gift of the taxpayer. So it's a little difficult to nail down exactly what part the question might exactly be referring to, but I think that gives you a general idea of what my thoughts are.
Convince us that you guys are fiscally conservative. Convince us that you are fiscally conservative.
So I would start this by saying, when I first decided to run, I was actually trying to stay away from social issues as much as possible. I just wanted to run a fiscal-driven campaign. That's impossible, but I've grown up in a small business family my entire life. That was I always assumed that I was going to study business in school, and then when you get there, you change your mind a million times. But growing up, going to my grandpa's store on the weekends and helping my dad around his businesses, they've just instilled in me the business mind, and I would definitely take that to Topeka.
Well, there's two things. There's business and there's personal life. I think most of us all understand that there's not a bottomless pit in our checkbook. I mean, if I mismanage my money, I just can't go to a credit card and rack that up and expect for somebody else to pay for that. It's ridiculous. But we do that in municipalities. It's easy. I'm a fiscal conservative. Everything I mentioned from the beginning is fiscally conservative. I'm not against educating our children, but I didn't think that we needed a $50 million, bond issue that was when my child was going to be my age when we finally paid it off. And we weren't even done paying off the one that we had before. We need a little better management there. I pushed for a zero mill increase. There were people that said that if we had a 0 mill increase, then we would lose firefighters and we would lose police officers, which didn't happen. Okay, so fear mongering there. The reality is that our government needs to stay within the budget. I've got to stay within my budget. There's been times in my life where I had plenty, and there's been times when I've had nothing. And there were times where things had to get put on the back burner. So because I know the value of the dollar, and I know the value of a penny, and I understand what it's like to struggle through and struggle by, and I understand that there's other Kansans that are that way, and it's our responsibility as legislators to make sure that those funds are protected and put to good use.
So I'm not sure how to convince you that I'm fiscally conservative in a minute when you really don't know anything about me. However, but what I can say is I have an MBA from WSU. I run 2 businesses. I was in the corporate world for 15 years. So I know what it's like to have a budget. I know what it's like to stick to a budget. We were very successful through this first round of the COVID with the shutdowns in my 2 businesses, that we were able to get through that very well, and we were able to help some of the tenants that I have in one of my businesses, help them get through the time as well. So because of the planning that we had on our side, we were able to help other people make up for maybe lack of planning on their side. So I'm not sure if that really convinces you since you don't know a whole lot about it, but it's really about having a good plan and then just making sure that the money you spend is well spent. And I go back to a saying that my boss used to tell me when I worked in the corporate world of spend the money like it's yours.
Well, with my experience on the city commission and working with budgets, understanding a fiscal conservative, you either have to raise taxes or make cuts so that you can avoid bonding and being in debt. If you can do that, then, and sometimes cuts have to be made, services are held back, and sometimes taxes have to be raised. And we've had to do that on occasion at the city. It's not an easy job. I have always sought to make common sense decisions, and I would be glad to speak further with anybody that has any questions about some of the decisions that we have had to make, if I can further explain them, because there's certainly not time up here right now, but I'm committed to fiscal conservatism. When you're sitting back in that chair and you look over the audience, you have time to think about the blunders you just made. I forgot to introduce our school board members that are here tonight. And if they would just stand and wave also. Melissa Schreiber, over there. Mallory Morton, and Matt Treaster. Would you be in favor of a school choice option for Kansas families like we see in other states?
All right. I really believe in statewide policies. I am a supporter of public education. Private school vouchers doesn't seem to be as important in areas like our district in rural areas as much as it is in the northeast section of our state. I feel we see what happens. I think we should wait to see what happens with President Trump's appeal to Congress for a plan that would provide federal tax credits for scholarships to private schools.
I think in the state of Kansas, we need to take our dollars back that we pay for our children. If we don't like the school they're going to, then we should have the right to go to another school or reward that school because it's a better school. I think that's the way it should go. When I was a kid, I lived out in western Kansas. Okay, it was a town of about 110 people before we moved here. Anyway, there was probably like 25, 30 kids in the school system, and they shut our school down. And it was completely economically devastating in that town. I'm going to watch as I get older and turn into a ghost town. But the truth of the matter is there are some times that needs to be the case. And I think that what happened there was economy chose that. I think that we need to be given those tax dollars that I get for my children that the state of lost to my USD that I'm in, and I should be able to take my child where I want to go. And if I want to go to a private school, then that amount of money should be able to go to that private school, and I as a parent should have to pay the difference. I do not agree with this holding money hostage, mandatory appropriation to a certain area. That's my money. I'm not forced into this school system. I would like to send a shout out to USD because you guys are rocking it. Okay, I do, and I'm really proud of what the city's been able to do and those things I've been involved in, and I just really appreciate your all's time.
Short answer, yes. I'm a big believer in the free market. So if there's a way that we can take our money and we can decide where that money goes, and we can create competition, and we can measure the services that we get, and we can determine which service provides us the best bang for our buck, and we have the opportunity to then make that choice, absolutely. Do I think it'd be difficult to do it? Yes, I do. So it's hard to just say, yeah, let's do it. I get that there's a lot of things behind it, but at the end of the day, I agree with the free market and the opportunity to let people create things that then become a competition, because at that point, it then provides the opportunity to get better education for our children, because they'll start fighting for it, and they'll start proving it, and they'll start documenting it in a manner that'll make sense for everybody. Because right now those things get very convoluted very quickly, and it's hard to figure out what you're seeing sometimes.
Well, first of all, I applaud our school board people here for the job that you're doing, and we're in hopes that we'll be moving forward on a more positive note in this year to come. Having said that, I do support a school voucher, if that's what you're talking about. Everyone pays taxes, and if those who send their kids to Christian schools, what they're doing is they pay their taxes, but they're also their pocket for that education. I believe that they should be able to make that choice on their own. I homeschooled my daughter for 4 years, and I enjoyed every minute of it. And she considered me to be her worst teacher ever because I drove her and I worked her hard. But she would probably tell you today that she's thankful for that. So yes, I support school choice. I have about 4 more questions to give you a frame of mind unless more come in. I'm going to combine these 3 here that have to do with our rights. Do you support any kind of gun ban? What is your opinion on extreme risk protection orders, aka red flag gun laws? Where do you stand on the Second Amendment? And do you support lowering the concealed carry age to age 18?
I love guns. I'm pro Second Amendment all the way. I believe that we did the best thing that the state of Kansas could have ever done, and that was have what I would call constitutional carry. I'm a little bit nervous when I go to school, and I know that there might be an 18-year-old kid coming from Louisiana that's never touched a gun a day in their life, and they're worried, and their parents give them a gun, and they take it to school, and they just want to protect themselves. I think we owe people more than that, but that's my personal opinion. I truly believe that the government does not have the business of being in the business of you owning a firearm, possessing a firearm. I have actually contemplated quite a bit with the question behind why it is that I have to go get a hunter safety course permit, or take a hunter safety course to go get a permit to shoot a bird, but there's nothing for anybody to do anything different. If I was going to say anything when it came to legislation as guns, is I just believe that if you want to carry a concealed firearm in the state of Kansas, maybe you should go get a hunter safety course permit. Maybe we should change that. It also help boost our coffers when it came to the Kansas Wildlife and Game, but I would absolutely not be in favor of any legislation to do that, but I would entertain it.
So I'm pro Second Amendment. I'm a lifetime NRA member. I've taught Kansas hunter education for 25 years. I believe that everybody has the right to defend themselves, no matter where they are, no matter who they are. Red flag laws, I do not like at all, one bit, any iota, and I can't make that any more clear. And as far as the age limit of 18, hey, the way I look at it is if our young men and women can go serve in the armed forces at 18, if that's the age that we're going to say that they're an adult and they can make adult decisions and they can do those things, then that should be the age that we give them freedom to do everything. If we're going to send them off to war and we're going to have them fight for us at 18, and that's going to be the age, then that's where everything should be free to do so at. So if you don't like the age of 18, we need to change that. However, I think it's fine.
I'll make this as quick as I can because I have a point I'd like to share. I fully support the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms. I believe people have the right to defend themselves in their homes. Having said that, I have a family member. My sister and I have guardianship over him. He has an illness, a mental illness. He is doing good now. But at one time in his possession, he had 16 guns and a box full of knives. And when I was called to be told that he was placed in jail, I praised God because it was the beginning of us being able to get help for him. So while I support the Second Amendment fully, the right to bear arms, I would like to see what we could do to take a look at something about that with regard to a case that is like my family member. He had 2 loaded guns in his car at the time that my sister and I took care of his personal belongings. That was frightening. So I will say, guns don't kill people. People kill people.
Like many Kansans, I am adamant about protecting our constitutional right to bear arms. I am a proud member of the NRA and a gun owner myself. I will always fight for the Second Amendment. This right must never be infringed upon, but we must do a better job of enforcing current laws, especially background checks, so that guns stay out of the wrong hands. I will never allow the government to prevent law-abiding citizens from defending themselves. On red flag gun laws, I could see myself supporting this as long as there is due process, but I believe if someone poses a threat to anybody or the public, they should not be able to possess a firearm. Also, I could support moving the legal age to 18 to carry.
Would you support the resolution HCR 5005 calling for Kansas to join the Convention of States in an effort to place control on the federal government?
Yeah, this is actually something that I'm interested in doing some more research in. There actually is a meeting tomorrow night, I believe, in Wichita to go get some information about that. So to sit here in front of you right now today, I can't say exactly what my opinion is because I need to gather some more information on it, but I plan to do that tomorrow.
That is not something I know about. I haven't had any opportunity to research it. So I will be doing that and see if I can't respond here soon, perhaps on my Facebook page.
I have a similar answer. I will research that and get a post up on my Facebook page and my website.
Well, I'm going to go up to Wichita and meet my friends tomorrow because I'm going there because I know those people and I know exactly what they're doing and what they're trying, and I think it's exactly what we need to do. We need to keep the federal government off our back. I mean, that's what it is. Who should be in Congress indefinitely? Is anybody for term limits here? Because that's what that is, more or less. Okay. So if you believe that we should be able to constitutionally change to where we are going to have all the Convention of the States, which is let me pull this out in a textbook. I might need more than that. I think it's about like 65 or 70% of the states have the right to come together. And if they all come together on one issue and they get what's called a Convention of the States together, then we can change the Constitution over and above the legislature. So basically, it's the state's way of getting together in a percentage and saying, look, federal government, you're going to stop doing what you're doing to us right now. And we're not going to quit with that anymore. And it gives us the right to do that. So for everybody, that's what it's talking about. And show up. There's something, they really love to have some more support. HB 5005? HB 5005. HCR 5005. Sorry, I just go by slang terms sometimes.
Do you support mandatory vaccination, or are you supportive of the individual's right to choose? Well, I've thought about that. I've not reached a sure decision, but I lean on the side of the individual's right to choose. I had a discussion with a woman who is in a grassroots movement on this, and I was kind of appalled by some of the things that I'd heard. I'd never heard those things before. So as I'm examining that, I haven't arrived at a yay or a nay, but I feel myself strongly leaning on the individual's right to choose. There apparently are a number of deaths associated with some of those, and I myself am really fearful of taking vaccinations just because you're basically injecting the disease, not the disease, but whatever it is, I can't think of the word I want to use, into yourself. So I don't trust that. I know there's a lot of controversy over that, but I guess I would say that's my answer at this time.
I am against the government forcing us to put anything into our bodies. It should be up to each individual.
I understand the concept that you don't want for anybody to tell you to put anything in your body, but we're also talking about children here. Do I have the religious right? Okay, first off, I'm going to answer the question. No, I'm not for mandating anybody put anything or you having to do anything with your children or anything. But I do caution people that really drive that line hard. I'm not the guy that says that you can let your kid die of cancer because Jesus is going to heal them. I'm sorry. I think that we have medicine. I believe that in those situations, a parent does not have the right to make their child suffer, and that somebody should step in and make sure that that child gets the help that they need. That's a really difficult situation. I mean, that's what I believe, but if I were to vote in something or someone were to nail me down, I would say that you don't have the right to tell somebody what they can and can't do with their child. And I think there's very few times when we do see those extremes, and it seems like we live in a world of extremes, and we're always fear of that extreme. So the reality is the example that I gave happens very rarely, and I think that we need to make sure that people have rights over their bodies and their children especially.
Yeah, so I'm not anti-vaccine, but I am against the government telling you that you have to be vaccinated. Leave that up to you to make that choice for you and your family. However, there are a lot of good vaccines out there that help with herd immunity and keep the population from becoming overwhelmed. So I think most of the vaccines that are out there are good. However, I'm not in favor of the government telling you that you must be vaccinated.
Okay, we're down to our last couple. I'm going to combine these because they both have to do with disabilities. With budget shortfalls, what will that mean for our citizens with disabilities? This person said, I have MS, and there are a lot of others I know who have MS. We need to have Medicaid expanded for therapy.
So yeah, this comes back to the Medicaid expansion. I do feel that there are definitely positives to Medicaid expansion. Also, when looking at the budget and finding where to cut, cutting certain. So I saw that the IDD was cut $20 million. That was stripped from the budget by the governor. I don't like that. So there's just multiple things that you really need to focus on when cutting a budget, and I think that it was done poorly this time.
Well, speaking of MS, kind of hits close to home because my Aunt Julie died of MS. I guess you call it that, died of dehydration, but MS all the same. The condition is what caused it. I watched a person that was a vibrant, awesome human being that was a jailer, supervisor, winnow down into somebody that couldn't even stand up and help themselves. I don't think that the situation that we're talking about is necessarily correct. I don't think that we have to expand Medicaid for people with MS to get help. I think that's something that we can do as a mercy situation for people. We can address specific issues. I think that's the problem with legislation. I think that we don't address issue by issue. And if we have a problem with that, and we need people that are on MS to get that because they're lacking that, then why can't we do that as a community? Why can't we do that as a state? Provide some of that? I mean, how are we going to look to the federal government? Are we going to constantly look for more money to service the needs of individuals? We can't be a bottomless pit, and we have to be a community and help each other.
Yeah, if this is pointing back to Medicaid expansion, again, I'm not for that. I realize that there are people out there that need help, and they need to use the resources that we have already to go and get that help. I'm not sure exactly how to answer that question, getting into those specific details of one particular person with one particular problem. So I think it just goes back to, I think there's places that people can go and get medical coverage and medical care if they go and they look for those places. So I think that most generally speaking, we provide a lot of that. It's just a matter of getting the right help to go figure out where that already exists.
When I think of those who have those disabilities, especially MS, I would hope that there was more opportunity for those people to have help on Medicaid as it currently exists. Because if the state expands and those individuals who are able-bodied working people drop their enrollment through the federal exchange and lose their subsidies, then the burden is much greater on Medicaid expansion, on the states that expand. It would seem to me like it might be more probable or hopeful to find help or to find out how some sort of assistance or coverage could be had on Medicaid as we know it. Okay, last two questions. Our constitutional rights are under serious attack. What will you do to ensure our rights remain intact?
Well, we've got to separate it into state and fed. It looks like we're just under siege. If you really want the truth, we're under siege. We're under attack. I've used it before. This is ridiculous. I mean, I when all this started happening and we have all these executive orders coming down, I'm sitting here asking myself, like, is anybody else concerned with what's going on here, or am I the only person in the room? Then we get into the whole debate about whether you have responsibility to keep everybody else safe, et cetera, fill in the blank. I believe that the state of Kansas needs to do a better job of keeping the federal government out of our business. We have a lot of power at the state level. We do. If we would tell the federal government, we're not going to let you do that, they can't in a lot of ways. Okay? We're protected. We've got to get some new people in there, especially in this situation. If you want for there to be any kind of movement towards people being liberated, our current representative is not that guy. I would say that we as a state need to make sure as a legislature that we get this bill passed that you guys put through, that you didn't have majorities, and limit any governor in the future from ever doing this. I don't care if they have an R or a D.
So I'm a little unsure of how to give you a specific answer to a question that seems a little ambiguous. In generally speaking, I mean, we have the right to free speech, and so we continue to do that. We have the Second Amendment, and right now, thank goodness we're able to carry here and protect ourselves. And thank goodness we don't have the riots and the things that are going on elsewhere. So I don't know if that's what that question is trying to allude to. But I think we as a community do a very good job of supporting each other. And so I don't think we have those specific problems here, or at least I don't see them. I mean, we had a little bit of protests going on a couple weeks ago, and it seemed to be very peaceful. Things seem to go very well. So here in this area, I don't, unless there's something very specific to go along with that question, I'm not sure how to give you a very specific answer.
Yeah, I'm kind of struggling to find out how I want to answer that. I'll say at the local level, I'm a big supporter of law enforcement. We need to make sure that we support, starting right here at the local level, your constitutional rights, and your law enforcement is there to make sure that those rights are exercised. At the state level, it's the voters' responsibility to make sure you elect people that are going to go to the state for you and look out after your freedoms. Now that, at the state level, none of us have been there yet, but my hope would be that if elected, we'll have the ability and the opportunity to influence policy and whatever that might be that would protect the rights of Kansas citizens.
All right, I'm going to take that and go as, I guess I understand it as the number of executive orders that have been passed by the governor. And I believe that the legislation or the legislators should be in charge of passing legislation. I think when you get the governor passing too many executive orders, it really gets away from democracy.
Okay, our last formal question. How do you feel about Black Lives Matter?
All right, here we go. Yeah, that's a tough one to really address in a minute, right? I'm going to start off and I say I think all lives matter. I don't think anybody should be discriminated against. I don't like the way that this whole movement is going because I think it helps foster discrimination maybe more than it tries to alleviate discrimination. And so it starts poking at people to pick a side almost. And it's very difficult to bring people together when you're trying to pick sides. And so at the end of the day, I believe that all lives matter and we should treat each other with respect. And we really need to get away from labeling things to a degree that it helps continue to foster discrimination.
Well, I will answer that as I've had to on my Facebook page, as being challenged about that. I'm not disrespectful, I don't believe, or insensitive as I've been accused toward Black Lives Matter. The movement, I don't support that movement at all. But I support all lives. And I support our blue lives because our blue lives are made up of black, brown, white, yellow, whatever you want to call it. And those blue lives are there to protect black lives, white lives, Asian lives, yellow, whatever you want to call it. So go to the Black Lives Movement website and look up their mission statement. I just encourage you to do that. And that I'll leave it at that. I support all lives.
I don't agree with how the organization has gone about getting their voice heard, but I do believe in all movements and protests, as long as kept peaceful, should be allowed. I fully support the First Amendment.
Well, that's a loaded question. I think we all know that. What someone's intent might be and the outcome of that, I usually judge the outcome. Okay? I can stand here all day long and tell you I'm here to help you, I'm here to help you, I'm here to help you as I'm stabbing you in the back. And eventually, you're going to realize that what I'm doing is not helping at all. And that's how I feel about that situation. I fully support people's First Amendment right to protest for any reason. I do think that it's somewhat jaded to say that all lives matter or blue lives matter over Black Lives Matter. If we were having a discussion about blue lives matter, then we would have a discussion about that. If we're having a discussion about Black Lives Matter or brown lives matter, we're having a discussion about that. But for us to sit here and be divided over all of this when these people are trying to point out, whoever that may be, these people meaning me, I'm a pro-life person. If I wanted to go to a pro-life rally in March because I was tired of babies being aborted, it wouldn't give me the right to burn down businesses. Or had I erred. The rule of law is key in our country. You have the right to do many things, but you do not have the right to destroy other people's property and break down our institutions, and it's not going to happen on my watch.
You're done. Aren't you happy? Yeah, really. This is where you get 1 free minute to say whatever you want to say. In case you don't know what to say, here are 2 options. What do you hope to accomplish by going to Topeka? Do you approve or disapprove of Governor Kelly's handling of the pandemic? Why or why not? didn't you know? I'm going to say I've really been challenged by this opportunity to consider going to the state District 72 seat for all of you. I have enjoyed my time as a commissioner, and I will continue to do so if the voters choose to send someone else. But I would really like your consideration for the opportunity so that I might go and work on your behalf. I believe it's very important for a representative to have communication with the constituents. And that is something that I would invite and would like to know more about how that works for each of you. As far as Governor Kelly's handling, I lean more towards the fact that it has an impact on our constitutional rights. That troubles me. So thank you for coming. Thank you for the opportunity to answer questions. And we'll look forward to see how this moves forward.
I have put communication in front of anything in my campaign, and if elected to Topeka, that would be my number one priority, is bringing communication back to this district from Topeka, because we have not had that the last 4 years.
Governor Kelly, disaster, F. I would say D, disaster, but we're just going to call it an F. Okay? I'm sorry to be so critical and annoyed with the whole situation, but any business sense on a lower level would tell you that just because you had, I'll give an example. I worked for Dollar General in Western Kansas. At one point in time, I had multiple stores. We had a hailstorm come through and damage out a bunch of crops. That means that those people had less money to spend. I didn't go around and shut down every Dollar General. I didn't say all Dollar Generals got to shut down because we had one problem over here. I think that we should have done it should not have been blanketed. I think that we should have handled it on a case-by-case basis. I think the power should have always resided within the county. You know, Sedgwick County, Wyandotte County, Johnson County, we got problems. Let's do something here. Let's figure out how to mitigate this. Gove County, Kansas, you can't go to church. 3,000 people in the county are not allowed to go to church because we have not had a case yet. But if we do, we might be overrun. I'm tired of the shock value. It's ridiculous, and we need to start being better about holding our governor accountable for her conduct.
So really, I think what it comes down to here is we've got to sit up here and we've got to talk to you guys all night long and give you a little bit about ourselves. But you all came to see us. You all are the ones that care about what happens here in this community. What we need from you is to get things fired up. I can go knock on every door in this town and I can get turned away 9 out of 10 times because they don't want to talk to me. But you people here, you're the ones that are listening. You're the ones that are trying to make decisions. You need to take this information. You need to take it to your friends, the people that you work with, and you need to talk about it. And you need to decide which one of us you want to get behind so that one of us, can go beat Tim Hodge and represent this community in the manner that it should be represented. So if nothing else goes on out of here tonight, if none of you come see me, I'm okay with that. But please talk about it with your friends, talk about it with your community members, talk about it with everybody you know, and let's figure this out so we can go take our district back.
Because they were so well informed and prepared and answered our questions very specifically, it has helped us to be more informed. And so we will have a wonderful turnout at the voting booth, and please take somebody with you to vote, or encourage them to go vote. While these people, our candidates are going to go make their way they each have a table for you to circulate around the room. We have 2 announcements, and then after that, our county commissioners will come to the front just for you to talk to, and some of our other elected officials will be around the room as well. Steve Owens is around here, and if you want to talk to the board members, they're here too. First one is our Harvey County Republican Party Ice Cream Social, July 13th, Athletic Park, 6:30. Listen to the names coming: Kobach, Marshall, Hamilton, and Lindstrom. So make sure you get it down. July 13th, Athletic Park, 6:30. Next, we have K-Self coming up for a wonderful advertisement.
Thank you. 2 years ago, I was in this room. I haven't been back since. I was in here because the election was stolen from Steve Kelly, and he had a pizza party in here. Was anybody in here that night besides me? Thank you, Steve. He formulated a plan for us to get some fire under us and have a turnout like this tonight. There were 6 of us. We named ourselves the Conservative Women's Forum of Harvey County. And so it is our desire, we are conservatives. Not every Republican is a conservative, but we are. And so we have held some events in this town that we feel are important. We honored the school bond issue. We had that debated. And also for school board, for city commission, for this tonight. Because we feel it's important that people, and all 4 of you would be great in Topeka, but we want to take down and out Mr. Tim Hodge. That's what we want to do. That's right. This is serious. This is serious business. And all of you tonight believe in that, or you wouldn't be here. So we thank you. Now that night, our first one, which was a year ago, was with Renee Erickson and Dr. Ham. Remember that? Okay. There was a family here that sat on about the front row, and one girl out of that the whole family was really enthused about getting more active in politics, and this is the Duvier family. And that night, there was a girl here who's here from Colorado Springs, and, or is she still here? Did she leave? Jamie? She's in the back. Okay. Well, Sandra, come here. Sandra and Janelle. Okay, these 2 girls are sisters. The girl is Jamie Unruh. She ran for city council in Colorado Springs after seeing that debate, and she won. Where is she? Oh, she's feeding the baby right now. Oh, that's good. Okay. Now, to have this event like this, it costs us a little money. And so, you know, the precinct people, you got a card like this in the mail. We pay for the postage. We pay for the printing and everything. And because we're so clever, we wanted to have you help us out. And we made some flags. You'll see them back there. And these 2 ladies are going to help us sell them or give them to you, whatever. We want to get rid of them. And if we have any left over, they will probably go into the storefront at Saks or Marshall Fields or something like that once those cities open. So anyway, go buy some flags from us. We have enjoyed making them. I'll tell you, it's just important to get involved in politics. 10 years ago, I have a picture down here of Mike and Susan Pompeo on my front yard in Newton. And these girls are on the front row right here at my house 10 years ago. So you were 10 years old when that happened. And now they're up here doing what they feel is important. And the whole family is involved with that. Mama Amy is over there. Bryce, he plays basketball in Europe. And Randall, he just graduated from college in New York. All of this family is very gung-ho on making good things happen that we believe in. That people have our values and standards and principles. We want to back you up. You can count on us. We are getting people into position here that represent us well. So thank you. And Steve, thank you for making this all happen, or you wouldn't have put a fire under our bellies to really get active in this. So I really appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, do you know what corner you're, okay, meet our people up here, fine. Your corner, go to your corner.